by Gabor Mate. On the 15th day, I will look up his name. Okay. Oh no, I don't want to read that. That sounds awful. Seaweed mustache, yum. All right. This is my strong hand. Okay. Good morning, good morning. It's a scary movie reference. All right. And of course, neither the opportunity to return to meaningful employment nor the pressure to resume working, no matter what the cost to parenting, is equally distributed among women. Class, as always, is a hugely significant variable. Many parents are compelled to enter the workforce from dire economic necessity or to rejoin it far too prematurely. How can they think of their children's future when they can barely provide for the present? This is particularly the case in the United States, where fewer than 20% of new mothers have access to paid leave. The problem is even worse for families of color. Myra Jones Taylor, Chief Policy Officer at the child development nonprofit 0 to 3, told The Guardian. Parents, she said, just can't afford to stay home with their babies. There are much more civilized policies in place in some countries, particularly in Northern Europe, where even fathers are offered paternity leave. 1 in 4 American women return to the work within 2 weeks of giving birth, a mere third of the length of postpartum maternity leave suggested by the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. Even the paltry recommendation by the ACOG seems intended only to allow the maternity body to heal and recover from the travails of labor. Given especially how many births these days involve surgical intervention, such a brief postpartum absence from work leaves the needs of the child entirely out of the consideration. For healthy children development, according to the child neurobiological requirements, a much longer period with the mother is necessary, ideally for a minimum of 9 months until the infant reaches a stage of relative biological maturity. The sudden loss of maternal contact is, for the infant, a shock. As we know from animal studies, even creatures whose period of dependence is much shorter than ours. All the lonely parents. Hello, hello. What's up? Hi, hi. Thank you, thank you. They are the steps of the Lord, so they will be prosperous and successful. I wish the same for you. Seaweed mustache for the win, for real. All the lonely parents. The British anthropologist Colin Turnbull spent 3 years living with pygmies in what was known as Belgian Congo in Central Africa. Until recently, these tribal people followed ways of life dating back, likely with little alteration, for thousands of years. He related his observations in the classic work, The Forest People. The infant, he writes, knows his real mother and father, of course, and has special affection for them, and they for him. But from an early age, he learns that he is the child of them all, for they are all children of the forest. In the small band hunter-gatherer milieu, the extended family and clan formed an indispensable network of warm, responsive support. Far from being a two-person show, much less a solo performance, parenting originally functioned within a broad circle of attachments, the multi-generational clan where consistent affection was modeled, encouraged, and shared. It was also supplemented in a manner both merciful and utterly common sense by a select group of other caregivers. That Navarres term, allomothers, the Greek derived prefix all denoting something other than the usual. Allomothers take the baby when mom needs a break. They carry, rock, and play with the child. They take care of mundane tasks. They are the buffer for the mother child, father child relationship. We know from many studies that the more support parents receive, the more responsive they can be to their children. It used to be the tradition in most societies, Navarro's writes, to have a lying in period for mom and new baby where women of the community wait on the mother, giving her nutritious teas and foods that promote breastfeeding and healing. They took care of everything in the household so she could stay in her bed and give her full attention to bonding with the breastfeeding of her baby. In effect, these cultures had a socialized child care for all policy to their great benefit. I have been practicing saying no all day. All day. Don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me what to do. Yeah, no. I said no so many times today. I said no to picking my kids up early. One asked me, my son, it started my son. Him and me, we've been, but the whole house, I've been telling the whole house no. I've been telling the whole house no. I've been telling the whole house what I need and having either them oblige and gain favor or no and they can kiss my butt. Because everybody's way too used to me shining my light in their direction or, giving them my energy or my time, and that is my fault for them not valuing it as much. Kind of like Malay Kumar, Malay Kumar. Don't tell me when to start my exercise. I'll start my exercise when I want to start my exercise. I might not live my exercise. How you like them apples? Okay? Press the like button. Say thank you for reading to me. How about that? Say thanks for showing up yet another day, 15 in a row. Doing a survey scale 110, how ticklish. Silly. Anyways, boundaries are hard to set. When you first start setting boundaries, you treat me good, I treat you good. You put wood in the fire stays lit. If ain't no wood going in the fire, guess what? The fire goes out. How you like those apples? Wait a minute. So you're going over the places playing games and be wanting to play more games? I don't know what that means. Taking good care of our home. Well, I gotta take good care of me to take good care of the home. So if people, it's not hard to not slam a door. I brought up the slamming of the door yesterday, and he said, I had to catch the bus. I had to hurry. What did slamming the door have to do with that? Or asking me for some of my cinnamon rolls before doing the cleaning the bathroom that you use? Clean up the bathroom that you use. Then you can have a cinnamon roll. Asking me for my hat or my socks or my things. Be nice to me. Be nice to me. Because I'm already nice. As I worked on this chapter in mid-May 2020, a horrific tourist assault on a hospital in Kabul, Afghanistan, killed 24 people, including some nursing mothers. In one of those most moving news videos I have seen, women arrived to nurture and nourish these orphaned infants. I have come here today to breastfeed these babies, one young local woman said through her COVID-19 face mask, because they lost their mothers in this bloody attack. I have a 4-month-old baby and came here to give them a mother's love by breastfeeding them. That is incredible. It may be that the allo mothering instinct is as natural as that of mothering itself. I got goosebumps all over my whole entire body. That's wild. Bottom line, it was never nature's agenda. If we can speak of it as such, that a distressed and confused young mother as Emily Oster should have to struggle in closeted isolation or to compromise on her instincts and desires to bond calmly with her child. It's not the job description of parenting that imposes these stresses on mothers and fathers. The problem lies with, so to speak, the socio-cultural job site. To say we have drifted afield from a community parenting model would be an understatement. Today's insulated nuclear family unit is a distant cry from our evolved evolutionary niche, traces of which grow fainter with each new decade, with every fresh turn of the wheel of economic and technological progress. With evolutionary precedents shattered, we are made to endure serial breakage of our instinctual inheritance. Consider what has happened to local communities within just a few generations. I and many others in my age cohort can still remember growing up in neighborhoods where nearly everyone knew one another, where children played throughout the day in the streets, and where every adult known to us all was a surrogate parent keeping an eye on us and ready to call us to order when out of line. Families shopped in neighborhood stores. The grocer, the baker, the hardware dealer, and the car mechanic offered their goods and services within walking distance. A personal note: during my childhood in Budapest, the sidewalk outside our building was almost as wide as a playground and served as much for the dozens of children for the neighboring apartment houses. I visited my old neighborhood on a recent speaking trip to Hungary to find the sidewalks now narrow, a multi lane freeway coursing along it, and on the other side, a drive through McDonald's and a gas station. Oh, that's sad. Drinks my. Ooh. The book is called The Myth of Normal. It's called The Myth of Normal. And we are talking about how raising a child takes a village, and a lot of places still have villages to raise children, and how we grew up, our era, being able to play in the streets and pretty much know all of the adults around us and things like that. And people would be quick to be like, hey, don't be doing that, kiddo. Did the parent know about that? I would still consider myself one of those adults. So I do talk to the children around here like they're also mine. I guess I didn't really recognize that until now, but I definitely feel a sense of I got you to the kids that I don't know at all. And I think that I hopefully am someone that they could turn to if need be. I would say that the screen effed society. I would say the screen effed society. And it's made the adults docile and distracted and consumed which has left the kids to fend for themselves and or model the parents or the adults around them. So where there, I have seen a couple instances where there was kids being preyed on, and I was like, wait a second, this is really messed up. What the heck is going on right now? There was either people on their phones and in their screens, or completely turning their heads to 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 not look because they didn't want to see what was going on right in front of their eyes. Because God forbid they speak up for someone else's child, because that's not their business. So I wouldn't say the screens effed the kids. I would say that the screens F society and society is effing the kids. That's how I would phrase it. So to each their own, though. All right. How quaint such memories seem now, almost like something out of Sesame Street. Local stores are an endangered species. Oh, it's true. I work at a local store. We still, for very few people, will run a tab, and I love that. Notwithstanding thriving communal settings in some localities, in general, more and more of us drive, often by ourselves, to work or to shop at some soulless and or windowless facilities far away in place of people we know. We encounter strangers purveying mass manufactured products. Economic interactions, once informed by personal relationships, whether at the bank, gas station, or local store checkout counter, have been increasingly replaced by emotionally sterile and ever more mechanized transactions. Suburban sidewalks, largely vacant and no longer enlivened by the raucous play of children of mixed ages. For the most part, kids attend schools segregated into same age groupings. The need to make a living impels many people to move far away from their extended families. Church attendance and other vectors of socially minded participants are on the wane. Without at first noticing, we have been pulled apart from one another and from our communities over the last third of the century. Harvard professors of public policy Robert D. Putnam wrote in 2000, social creatures by natural design, we have become fish out of water. So crazy, and you can see people on the Facebooks and stuff. What's up, Jen? Good morning. What's up? Yeah, it's sad because you can still see people like fighting, like they're like, it would be nice if we could get a a weed spot in my little town, or a Walmart. Like a Walmart would be way better because the prices are crazy, and it's like, are they? But what they just said, how we travel so far to go into windowless places, like even I at some point have been like, oh, a Walmart would be so much nicer if it was a Walmart closer. It would not. Having another building where we have no windows would not. I didn't even think about the windows. I didn't even think about the windows in the small stores, but it will literally end the town. So although the town is growing, it's us. It's us and our need for convenience and need for things that we don't actually need, that's really destroying stuff. Oh, this thing I'm sitting on is awesome. It is awesome. Church attendance and other vectors of socially minded participants are on the wane. Without at first noticing, we have been pulled apart from one another and from our communities over the last third of the century. Mothers whose need for connection is an especially high stakes matter are among the hardest hit by these shifts. Adrienne Rich notes that during the relative affluence of the mid 20th century, the move to the suburbs, to the smaller, then the larger private house, the isolation of the home from other homes, the working class mothers in their new flats, and the academic wives in their new affluence all lost something. They became, to a more extreme degree, housebound, isolated women. Such tendencies are exerting themselves internationally and with growing force under the sway of globalized capitalism. While there is no sense in pining for some idealized once upon a time, a decline in cohesion and community support is discernible and lamentable. In early decades, the social ties were in place. James Carbonell, a longtime student of child development and a professor of humanistic psychology at Chicago's Loyola University, told me in an interview, even though the value of individualism was there, the social structures that bound people together were more evident. Many of those have atrophied, or people have chosen to opt out of them, not realizing how important they were for their well being in the past. These structures, people didn't consciously know how important they were, and so they felt they could get rid of them with no cost. Joni Mitchell was right. We truly don't know what we've got until it's gone. A culture where nature has become the exception is a culture in trouble. To do the job of evolution has tasked us with, and to access and trust our natural instincts designed for that job. We need each other, and we need communal and social support, just as surely as our children need us. Isolated parenting is stressed parenting, as is trying to keep up with the latest counter instinctual expert advice from the Apologies to Dwight Eisenhower parenting industrial complex. Troubled parenting, in turn, is a breed ground for personal and societal malaise. I don't know what that means. Malaise. What does malaise mean, OG? Gritty. What does malaise mean? Good morning, Jody. Hi, hello. Good morning. We have a couple more pages to read. My green drink. I need a spoon. Tastes healthy. But is it though? Is these vitamins healthy? I don't know. I hope so. One can hope. Sometimes I'm like, am I giving into it? This damn mocktail. Did they get me? When does the effects kick in? I don't know if my brain's working better or not. Forcing the brain in the wrong direction. The sabotage of childhood. There can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way it treats its children. Nelson Mandela. Do you ever get accused of mother blaming? I asked the Harvard based pediatrician and researcher Jack Shankoff. I worry about that a lot, he said. If we talk about the environment of relationships is, if we talk about how influential the environment of relationship is, you can end up on a slippery slope with people saying, parents are doing a bad job. It's their fault. Dr. Shankoff, whose work was illuminated much of the science of early development, then summed up to the core dilemma faced by anyone who tries to engage with these issues honestly. You can't say that the parents are incredibly important in the lives of their children, yet if there's a problem, it has nothing to do with the parents. But the truth is, parents don't raise their children in isolation from society. A wiser view requires a wider lens. Yes, parents are responsible for their children. No, they did not create the world in which they must parent them. That's good. That's a good one. That's true. Our cultural ecology does not support attuned, present, responsive, connected parenting. As we have seen, the destabilization begins with stress transmitted to infants still in the womb. With the mechanization of birth, the attenuation of the parenting instinct, and the denial of the child's developmental needs. It continues with the increasingly intolerable economic and social pressures on parents these days and the erosion of communities, and magnifies with the disinformation parents receive on how to rear their young, reinforced by educational systems that too often stress students with pressures to compete. The process accumulates in the exploitation of children and youth for the glory of the consumer market. Somebody had to say it. Thanks, Gabor. Nobody's gonna read this book though. Maybe. I don't know. It's a gigantic book. Parents do their loving best. I know I did. I also know full well how my best was constricted by what I didn't know yet about myself nor about child rearing. However noble our intentions, our ability to carry them out is heavily influenced by our own early experiences and unresolved traumas, by the social expectations we are charged with transmitting to our children, and by the stresses of life. Does that knowledge liberate me from feelings of guilt, especially when I see the marks left on my kids by limitations as a younger man? No, not automatically, but at least I'm aware that guilt and blame are unhelpful and beside the point, especially when we understand the context. As James Garbarino urged in 1995, we need to put aside blaming parents and take a good hard look at the challenge of raising children in a socially toxic environment. Garbarino, at the time co-director of the Family Life Development Center and professor of human development at Cornell University, noted that among the many facets of the socially hazardous environment for child raising were violence, poverty, and other economic pressures on parents and their children, disruption of relationships, nastiness, despair, depression, paranoia, alienation, all of the things that demoralize families and communities. He also wrote of many others that are subtle yet equally serious. High on the list is the departure of adults from the lives of their kids. The radical disruption of evolutionary norms is taken for granted, to the point where we barely even notice it. Worse, we mistake it for the natural state of things. An automatic consequence of the weakening of communal and family ties is that our children must seek their attachment needs elsewhere. There it is. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. You won't be here. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. You have this blanket? This blanket is so comfy. Love it. Love this blanket. Toot it and boot it. And now you look stupid. Bye. Miss R. I can't even say your name, and it's a waste of time too. So I'm being mean today, you guys, and liking it. Say something stupid. I dare you. I dare you. Part of me is thinking that maybe I might cut out the reading portion of going live. Like, I might only do my stretching going live. I don't know. So if anybody, I see that there's only 5 people in here, but if anybody actually enjoys this really difficult, challenging book, it would do you well to speak up also. Otherwise, that is okay. I will just not read live. I can probably read just as well without a camera, so I don't have to practice speaking to people through this horrible, long, dreadful book. An automatic consequence of the weakening of communal and family ties is that our children must seek their attachment needs elsewhere. Children, like the young of many species, must attach to someone in their lives. Their neurophysiology demands it. Absent a reliable attachment figure, they experience fear and disorientation. Their brain wiring will go, well, haywire. In effect, essential brain circuits having to do with capabilities such as learning, healthy social interaction, or emotional regulation will not develop appropriately. Nothing in a child's brain tells her to whom she should attach. Nature's assumption, if we can put it that way, is that the parents would be consistently present. Children are born with this expectation coded into their bodies and nervous systems. The immature brain cannot abide what Gordon Newfield calls an attachment void, a situation in which no attachment figure is there to connect with. Inevitably, just as a newborn duckling, in the absence of its mother, will trustingly follow the first creature it sees, the nearest goose, squirrel, park ranger, or even a robotic toy car. The vacuum must and will be filled by whoever is around. For our young today, whoever is around from an early age onward is most often the peer group. Unmoored by the decline of the multi-generational adult-led community, children and adolescents have to seek acceptance from one another. This is, developmentally speaking, a fool's errand. To be clear, the desire, even the need, to form close connections with one's own age group is natural and healthy. Good morning. I like the part that said, we cannot control the world they are born into. That kind of relieves the parents' blame. It does. It does. And as I'm thinking about how stinky I'm being back to my son, I am also thinking about who he has for attachments and his need for attachments. And it is a challenge to be in so many places in one day. But yeah, the world is definitely not set up in a way for parents to be there and present and all this stuff. It definitely takes a lot of effort, a lot more effort than it should. Trying to think, like, how can I grow more community support? Such friendships can be among the richest bonds forged in a lifetime. But from the perspective of emotional development, peer orientation, the displacement of adults as the primary source and locus of attachment for the child in favor of their own age cohort is disastrous. The proverbial blind can do a better job of leading the blind than immature creatures can successfully guide one another to sociological maturity. Aaron, the younger of my two sons, now 43, sees in hindsight how this dynamic has limited him. As a teenager, I was consumed by what my friends thought of me, how much they liked me, and what it took to fit in with their expectations, he recalled recently. That kept me immature into my adulthood. Of course, his peer orientation was not about his peers per se. It was a natural outcome of his parents' lack of availability as emotionally attuned adults in his early years. As we've discussed, emotional safety, formed in secure connections with a baseline of unconditional worth, is a prerequisite condition for maturation. Generally, once kids are absorbed into the peer world, they lose their safety of the primary connections with adults. In cultures with their priorities in order, young friendships blossom in a community setting, overseen by nurturing adults. In our society, peer interactions occur not in the context of protective adult relationships, but away from them. When children spend much of their waking time away from caring adults, their brains are compelled to choose between competing attachments. The natural call of parental connection of the siren song of the peer world, or the siren song of the peer world. If can you hear me? Okay, good. Thank you. Good morning, good morning. OG's rolling in. Which means that they lose too. All this is exasperated by the blandishment of a pop culture that holds up immature adolescent celebrities as idols to be followed, a telling word on social media by multiple millions of children and teens. In a previous age, these young people would have seen mature adult figures as the ones to emulate. Crazy. Some parents reading this may protest, but my kids' friends seem lovely, accepting, and open minded. Real and worth celebrating as those qualities may be, a child finding her primary succor and comfort in her peer group is more a sign of cope than a cause for hope, especially at younger ages. The noblest of peers are hard pressed to supply the abiding connections that developmental safety demands. Among other shortcomings, children cannot count on each other to remain internally consistent. Many of us can recall an unhappy first day of school when we were shocked to realize that our erstwhile friends had morphed over the summer into something far less friendly. Nor can they offer one another the unconditional positive regard that nourishes healthy growth, a quality even well meaning adults often find challenging to provide. As a rule, immature peers are constitutionally incapable of accepting each other as is, or hoping or holding space for the vulnerable experience of emotion, let alone its open expression, or relieving one another's stressed states, or celebrating or even tolerating temperamental differences. Left to its own colo devices. The peer group can offer only acceptance that is highly conditional and thus insecure, often demanding self suppression and conformity in place of true individuality. In more dire cases, peer orientation exposes children to the threat of rejection, ostracization, and bullying. According to a 2001 article by Natalie Angrier in the New York Times, the news bristles with reports that bullies abound. In one of the largest studies ever of child development, researchers at the U.S. National Institutes of Health reported that about a quarter of all middle school children were either perpetrators or victims, or in some cases both, of serious and chronic bullying. Behavior that included threats, ridicule, name calling, punching, slapping, jeering, and sneering. Similar patterns have been reported in Europe. From Spain to Germany, England to the Czech Republic, public officials and school administrators have had to confront the issue. The World Health Organization estimated in 2012 that one-third of children reporting having been bullied by their peers. These days, we hear too many accounts of children or teens manifesting or at least feigning indifference at real life suffering, even finding kicks in it. We read frequent reports about bullying or sexual assault being shared on social media by adolescents as if they were amusing bits of life, even though the pain caused has also led to unaliving and self harming. The 2019 overdose death of a troubled adolescent in a Vancouver suburb shocked the world. As the National Post reported on August 7th, Carson Criminy, a 14-year-old boy described in news reports as lonely and desperate to fit in, took rugs with a group of older teens at a skate park in Langley, British Columbia. As he grew increasingly incoherent, the older kids filmed him. They mocked him and laughed. They uploaded the clip online and spread them around. 12-year-old tweaking on M, one wrote over a video of a sweaty Carson. He looks tiny in the clip in his gray hoodie and black pants. He's 15 caps deep, someone wrote over another clip, according to Global News. In later videos, his eyes pop and spin. He sweat through his sweater. He swipes at his nose. Hours later, the boy was found dead, too far gone to be resuscitated. Even the dire moment reported that CBC. Another teen posted a picture of the ambulance on social media with the jocular caption, "Carson almost died, LOL." Very soon after, there was no almost about it. Carson Kremny tragedy. The Carson Kremny's tragedy may have been an extreme case, but many children these days live under the shadow of peer rejection, mockery, or bullying, or may themselves become bullies. Let me see how many pages we're at. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, we're past 10. I don't want to go past 10. We're at 43 minutes. The last 10 pages was talking about the importance of the attachment children need, going from being in the womb, the stressed out parents, and how parents are being pulled away by social obligations, and in the midst of them being pulled away, children are not having their developmental needs met. And because of this, their needs do not disappear. They still have the needs to attach. And so since they still have the need to attach, they are forming attachments within each other and also on social media. So we see the rise in parasocial relationships. I'm sure some people have recognized that there are some very young children that gravitate towards this stream sometimes, and those are attachments in a sense, and they're attaching with strangers online. They're also attaching with each other. You hear people, the younger groups coming in and talking about, their crushes and stuff. Even as adults, you see people come in here and are forming attachments in a sense, parasocial attachments, also. And this is because there is a lack of presence where all of these people are. It is not that people do not exist where these people are. It is not that they don't have adults around them and siblings around them. It is because we are all failing to attach in real life. We are not connecting and attaching in real life, and it is pushing people online and to look at what the big people are, because obviously we don't all get the same slice of the pie. The biggest slices of the pie are whatever the algorithm or whoever gets to decide the algorithm wants us to see. And this comes through even how we relate to each other. Did you see the Biscoff trend? Did you see the low waist trend? Do that. And people are relating to each other through these trends and what is in. It's wild. It's wild and scary, and it definitely gets. It's definitely got me thinking. Even though it's right there in our face, it's still like I'm processing, processing, processing. Biscoff looks delicious. It does. I only saw it through another video. Somebody was like, "This is going on," and I don't actually know what's trending and stuff because I don't really spend too much time scrolling. I'm so busy. I don't have the time to. I have the time to live a couple of times, which I might actually be cutting the reading live out. So we might only do the stretching live and, the few people that come in here and we have good interactions are the only thing that comes to my mind when I go, why am I doing this? Nobody actually is gaining anything from this. What am I doing? Blowing smoke? Um, I can still show up for myself without needing to come online. So it's kind of feeling like, I guess, like the little convenience store. Each time somebody goes, it's cheaper for me to go to Walmart. I'd rather spend the $10 in gas to go to Walmart. And they opt out of spending the $1.50 more at our little store. Enough times that happens, the little tiny store on the corner doesn't exist. Then you can't go get your pack of smokes. You can't go get your chew from the little corner store that's maybe a couple bucks more because everybody opted out. Then we don't have malls where you can go hang out at the mall. You can go see people at the mall. It used to be easier back in the day because we had malls that you could go to. We don't have those anymore because they're dying out because everybody can shop online. So you gain sleep deprivation. Aw, Dodge. Yeah, like maybe I'm just contributing to the cycle and the loops. And if I wasn't, it's not like it would change much. It would just be a different character online. So sometimes I mix into those thoughts and it is very hard to separate those sometimes. But I do value the connections that I make on here. I do think about the people that I talk to on here, off of here. When I said my littles, I had a walk with my littles, I met my babies. But thank you. I do also take my dog. You remember malls? You were not old enough to remember malls. For real. And that's what we'll tell our kids one day. Like, our grandchildren won't know what malls are. They'll be like, what are malls? You know, it's like Amazon, but you can go there in person and actually maybe bump into somebody new. Now where are you going to meet people? Where do I meet people? You see people online, where do I meet people? Is there anywhere I can meet people? I'm like, you know how many times I went to places alone thinking, I'm gonna meet people because I'm going places alone, and people looked at me like, who's that weirdo that's alone here? Not inviting me in, just going, that's weird. She's in isolation in it, like out in the world. Like, no, like I'm just not gonna assert myself into already developed groups of 2, 3, 5. Bullies become the bullies. Payphones, yes. Every time I see a payphone, I'm like, oh, let me go take a picture with that payphone. I was around when malls were invented. That's awesome. I don't think malls have windows either, but what did malls replace? The little pop-up shops around. That's what malls replaced. And then Amazon replaced those. Oh yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. Anywho, I'm gonna set up for our stretching. We don't have malls, we have shopping centers instead. Same, same. Even the shopping centers, when I go to shopping centers, they feel dead. They feel like nobody's there. It's crazy. Bullied becomes the bullies. Yes, yes. And I tell my children that, if somebody's being a bully, it's probably because they have bullies. Things to do in stretching time. They're booming here. Are they booming there? That's awesome. That's good. Here they are not. Their tea is not Chicago. All right, you guys, I'll see you soon. I think you had the largest one in the southern hemisphere. That's crazy. That's awesome. All right, I'll see you guys.